1, 2, 1, 2. Vocals all the way through.
Thank you all so much for your complete silence during this sound check.
We're gonna get started. Is that okay with y'all?
And together we are Vanilla Godzilla!
Hey, this is Rob down here at the Stone Balloon. Somehow I got stuck in line, thinking, you know, I'm on TV and everything, I could get in, but it didn't help. I'm down here with the schmucks, I guess.
The Stone Balloon, it opened as a music venue in 1972, and it closed in 2005-ish, 6-ish, and that's when it was demolished to make way for what's there now. What's currently Grain on Main, when I was at Delaware, was called East End Cafe. East End Cafe, I think, was probably most associated with the local music scene. That was the most friendly to those bands. It maybe became their kind of home base.
Hey guys, how's it going? It's T again. This time I'm here at the East End Cafe, right here on Main Street. Now what the East End has to offer, they offer great food like their burgers, okay? They also offer great drinks, but what they really offer, the biggest thing they offer is live band performance, okay?
Mojo Main was probably only open for like 3 or 4 years. It was a pretty short run. Before that, it was East End Cafe. Mojo would try to do a lot of local music, occasionally would try to bring in like touring bands and have local bands open for touring bands.
Newark, you know, when I was growing up, when I was younger, it was kind of the place to be to go see some live bands, and we would go to a place called Mojo on Main, and that was a really cool place for like any kind of artist to be. You know, you could be a rapper, you could be an electronic artist / DJ, you could be a punk band.
A close second might be the Deer Park, just because of the history of the building.
I really enjoy Deer Park just because it's so close and you can kind of engage the audience more versus backyard. It's a different vibe. People are sitting down, some people are up dancing. Same with like the intimate spaces, like Deer Park, the basements. You know, it's sweaty as hell. Everyone's dripping, the equipment's dripping, the ceiling's dripping, but it's just a lot of fun.
My favorite part about playing shows at Deer Park is probably just the energy. It's a nice venue. It's well established. They have pretty much the closest thing we've had to a stage. You're close to the audience. It's not so much targeted at like college students in the same way that a lot of the other performances are. You know, you could be, you know, a 40-year-old townie and you somehow end up at the Deer Park show. So we kind of reach an audience that we wouldn't really get playing, you know, a frat show or a backyard show or something like that.
Of course, the underground venues are here to stay. They may not be going under their particular name because people move out and stuff, but somebody's going to fill the void, you know. It's not going anywhere.
They're a lot more intimate. The places tend to be a lot smaller, especially if like a house or in a basement, like Secret Tunnel kind of is. It gets very sweaty in such a place. You gotta be like really into the scene, I think, to go do one of those.
So the Secret Tunnel has kind of introduced a lot of people to DIY. We always say that we are the introduction to DIY for a lot of people because it's not as, like DIY is kind of hard to find, and we kind of make ourselves as like known as possible for people who haven't seen it before. DIY culture as a whole is this like underground-esque, it's not so secret that all you have to do is know how to find it. We don't go around and like tell people we shouldn't be telling, but we definitely aren't like hiding it either.
The record shops are always doing shows, and they help the scene immensely. I know some bands come from out of state, so they don't even have to be local bands, but bands will come out of state, play these record shops in Newark, which bolsters the scene too.
A lot of these songs were actually written in the great state of Delaware. Oh, yes.
We did some shows here before the pandemic, but after the pandemic, a lot of the local music venues had closed. The Wilmington ones, Newark ones had already been not doing anything. But a lot of the Wilmington music venues closed, and so there was just kind of a hole of opportunity for people, and I knew that there were lots of bands that wanted to play, and wanted to play out in a public space, like you can usually find a basement to play in, and that's great, like that's awesome, and those are also like super integral to the scene. But you also want a public place where you also like invite your parents and stuff like that. And so I made it a point to try to do shows a couple times a month.
We do live shows here, yep, once a month, and we kind of rotate the genre. There's a lot of good, really good bands out there. It's just really, really muffled, pardon the pun, but really like squished because there's not opportunities for them to play anywhere. You know, we do shows here. I know Rainbow Records does shows, but if they really wanted to like play a club, Wilmington's kind of the nearest place that has a good club, or Elkton.
Brother and sister. So Wilburfest was the big one, the granddaddy by far. The way it worked, my understanding was the residents of Wilbur Street each year were kind of like inherited the responsibility of putting on the show. And this was all for charity. Proceeds would all go to a local charity. What they would do is the tickets that they produced were in the form of these buttons that they would produce. And the buttons, where would you get the button? Like, where would you buy your ticket? You'd buy it at Rainbow and probably also at Wonderland and maybe some other venues. The estimates for those interconnected backyards behind those Wilbur houses, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000. I mean, they were absolutely packed.
And Wilburfest ended in the 90s sometime. Wilburfest, some college kid fell off a roof and his parents sued. So the city's like, no more permits for that. And Skidfest had some issues and kind of the same thing happened.
College students drinking and enjoying being outside and bands and all the shenanigans that comes with that. And so the town and the local residents that were not students, you know, they weren't big fans of the scene. So they put together what they needed to put together to kind of squash it. But it's still a good thing in terms of supporting the local music scene, giving local bands exposure in one shot that they might not have had all year.
Yeah, I don't know if you've heard about the Newark Footloose law, but in like 2015, maybe 2016, City Council enacted a law that you're not allowed to dance to live music in places that serve alcohol, which is, you know, everywhere, unless you're grandfathered in. Klondike Kate's and Deer Park are grandfathered in because they're both like over 100 years old, but no other places you're allowed to dance to live music anymore. And so that kind of effectively shut down any live music that there was.
Not much we can do. We can express our voices at the town hall meetings, but there's an association with the increasing amount of admission to Delaware and the amount of riffraff that the city sees comes from the bars. So there's been regulations like decibel ratings where they can't exceed a certain amount of decibels from the street, capacity regulations, which are really cracking down right now. Stuff like that makes it really hard to have bands in because of the past experiences the places have with bands. And it's logistically difficult for the managers and owners of these places to get bands too.
Metallica. If you go to the list of artists over the years, the Stone Balloon, a couple years before I got there, Metallica played in there.
I saw Metallica on Main Street.
My dad was at the Metallica show.
My parents are from the area too, and they went to a Metallica concert on Main Street.
I remember going to the Stone Balloon and seeing Metallica on the wall and being like, oh my God, I wish I could have been there for that.
I wish I could have been there. They played one show in Delaware ever, and it was that show.
I hear stories from the old bouncers at Deer Park of what it was. Stone Balloon, Deer Park, the Down Under, which is no longer a thing. All these restaurants had crazy bands come through. Like Stone Balloon had Metallica, they had Sting come through, the Doobie Brothers were there.
Yeah, Bruce Springsteen played there, and George Thorogood is from Delaware, so like I get dudes in here like once a week that are like, I played guitar with George Thorogood. I'm like, yeah, for sure. He went to my high school. At a different time, obviously, but like, yeah, he was around.
The Kinks, Pat Benatar, Joan Jett multiple times. John McEnroe, the tennis player, had a blues band, and my ex-brother-in-law got banned for life from the Stone Balloon for that show because he just wanted John McEnroe to sign a tennis ball, and John McEnroe didn't want to, so Joe kind of backed up and beamed him in the head with it.
A lot of people think there was a before and after on Main Street. When the balloon shut, a lot of people think Main Street changed for good, and I agree. There's not a venue like that since.
Hopefully one day Main Street can get back to some sort of roots in music rather than Chipotle's and Starbucks.
The history is very rich here, and it's unfortunate how the regulations here kind of shut it down, but we're trying to bring it back.
There's always lots of talent around, and that's super important, but I think the most important thing to anything having momentum is people that care. And there's a lot of people that are much younger than me that are excited about doing stuff, and they're the same amount of excited that I was and still am about doing music, but you have to have like the energy to do things and to put on shows, and there are more people now than I've ever seen that are excited about it, and so I think that it's looking really good.
Yeah.